We are previewing UFC 325 Volkanovski versus Diego Lopes in Sydney, Australia. Welcome back to Gibbo MMA, and we have a rematch on our hands that no one asked for, but we're getting it anyway. What can we do? This fight is going to be a cracking main event again, and we've got a good fight card. We've got a lot of Aussies. We've got Road to UFC on the early prelims. We got Benoit St. Denis, Dan Hooker going to be probably the fight of the night. A striking masterclass with Rafael Vaziv and Mauricio Rufy. The return of the GOAT heavyweight Taito Vasa is back, baby. Trying to end, I think he's on a 6-fight losing streak. We're going to preview it all. And we got top lightweight prospect, Australia's own Quillan Saukould, going up against a fellow Aussie, Jamie Malarkey. We're going to preview it, guys, and back-to-back pay-per-view events. I love it. This is great. What a way to start the year. And we're coming off UFC 324, Justin becoming 2-time interim champ. And now we've got another pay-per-view to preview. And I say pay-per-view because Australia, we have to get the Paramount Plus subscription, and then we have to go and purchase the pay-per-views on Foxtel Main Event KO. We have to have like 3 different subscriptions. UFC Fight Pass for early prelims, Paramount Plus for prelims, and then purchase the pay-per-view. Main event, when this got announced, the fans weren't happy. We were calling for another matchup for Volk because we had just seen this in April last year, and it was a dominant performance of Volk. He won 4-1 and 3-2 across one judge's scorecards, and he became the first 2-time featherweight champ after retaining it. He beat the allegations of anyone over 35 or something winning a belt in the welterweight division and down. And now we have to watch it again. And I'm obviously picking him to win, but I'll be watching this clenching my butt, very worried, because when he got dropped in that second round against Lopes at the end, that's all I'm worried about again in this fight, is him just getting caught. And he's talked about that, how that's really the only way he loses is just getting caught. And I hope he can, when he exits, he kind of leans back and has that chin isolated a bit. So I'm hoping, he doesn't get caught exiting the exchanges with his head back and getting finished like Topuria did to him. But other than that, I think Lopes, he'll have improved. He's coming off that win against Jean-Lord Silva, the TKO, and that's pretty much what got him this title fight, other than having a big name. He went and got that big knockout win at UFC Noche last year, and we've got guys like Movzar and Lerone still sitting on the sidelines. The number one contender, Movzar, really forgotten about. I don't know what's going on with him, if he's injured or... Yeah, because he did have to pull out against Aaron Pico, and that's when Lerone stepped in and did the spinning elbow. But now, I think this is very much a business decision matchmaking, and I can understand that. So, unfortunately for Lopes, it's out of his control that he's got this fight. Like, if you're Lopes, 100% you're taking this fight, and, I'm happy for him. Just as far as, like, UFC... And what the fans want to also see is fresh opponents, new matchups, and we want to see Volk versus that number one contender like he has been wanting to do. But this fight will be entertaining again. The first fight was awesome, back and forth, but I think it probably goes the same. And Volkanovski, man, probably one of the greatest featherweights of all time. This is his 11th title fight. He's been in a main event and title fight since he first got the belt against Max Holloway back in 2019. Like, this guy doesn't know what a co-main is anymore. He doesn't even know what a non-title fight is. This guy is main event king, title fight king, And it just shows you like what a career he has had. He's had the highest of highs, lowest of lows. And yeah, so December 14th, 2019 is when he got the belt of Max Holloway in that decision. And he had, so for, 6, 7 years, he's only been in main event title fights. Like, it's just insane the career Volk has had. And then he even went up to lightweight to face one of the greatest lightweights of all time, lost that. And then he went back and unified his belt again against Yair, who got the interim, demolished him. And then short notice, Islam. And then, Deporia. So it was on those back-to-back losses, knockout losses, vicious knockouts. And then for him to get that win against Lopes last year was just like, I think the whole MMA community was super stoked for him. And now he's got to go out there and do it again. And Volk gets better with his rematches when he has a full camp. Like, he's going to just have so much data and know exactly what to do and hopefully get the finish in this fight. And Lopes, he's young himself. He will have improved for sure, but he's very hittable. As you saw in the Silver fight as well, he's very hittable. A chin of granite. Yeah, that's the only thing. Like, he's so durable, Volk, not, the biggest KO power. And I just think it's fascinating how a short, stocky guy like Volk can just outstrike people on the outside. It's just phenomenal. Like, it just doesn't get talked about enough how a guy who's 5'6" can outstrike and get and hit without getting hit from the outside against people who are 5'11", like Lopes and Max Holloway. Like, it's incredible. And Volk, one of the most well-rounded guys in MMA. And I think, Lopes, he has 12 submissions in his career, but in the UFC, I think he only has one submission win against Gavin Tucker back in 2023. Because there was no grappling, there was really no wrestling in their first fight. And you'd think maybe Lopes would want to mix it up, see how it goes on the ground. But Volk, I've just seen, he's very difficult to take down and hold down. The only guy that was really able to do it for a brief period was Islam. And he had nothing. All he did was get his back and just hold on for dear life. You saw when Brian Ortega mounted guillotine and locked in like a freaking fortress and still couldn't even submit him. And I think that's why I think the fight's going to very much go the same way. And I'm just hoping Volk doesn't get caught and he can just put on another dominant performance like he did against Max Holloway in the third fight. That's what I'm thinking how it's going to go. Like that performance he did against Max Holloway in the third fight was just piecing him up, absolutely piecing him up. He looked fresh coming out of it, and Holloway was just cut open, battered and bruised. And I think it will go like this in the main event in their rematch. And the featherweight division has been a little bit not sort of held up, just generally, I think, because of the matchmaking and just with this new Paramount deal. I think they just wanted to hold out and, to start this deal, get a big name like Lopes, who's Brazilian, but trains out of Mexico. They want that South American market because no one really knows who Movzar is. He's been super inactive. Same with Lerone Murphy. He's on like a 10 or 13 fight win streak in the UFC, and people are only just starting to get to know who he is off that crazy knockout against Aaron Pico. And then you got Yair Rodriguez, who got absolutely ran through by Volk, so I don't see a point in making that fight. So I understand as far as business matchmaking, there's talks of Lerone and Evliov to main event London, which will be good, hopefully. But I got Volk winning this fight. And as far as Lopes, second shot at the title. He's only got 2 losses in the UFC. First one was against Movzar, which he did step in on short notice. A very competitive decision loss that was. And then his other loss is to the GOAT Volkanovski. So he's a big dude, 5'11", featherweight, probably the most durable, tough guy and granite chin in the division. And yeah, I just think he's going to be outskilled. In the last fight, he just let Volkanovski circle around. He never cut off the cage. If he can corner Volk, get him Volk backed up against the cage like the Poirier did, and then blitz him, I think that's his path to victory. But if he's just going to let Volk skate around that octagon line you see, border on that, you see that octagon line just before the fence, and you got that, like, if he can back Volk off behind that octagon line and get him against the cage and cut him right off and not just let him scoot around the outside, I think that's where he can knock him out, because that's how Poirier did. Whereas the first fight, he just let Volk escape, the danger zone, let him scoot back around the outside back into the center of the octagon, and just followed him around like a, rabbit chasing a carrot, essentially. Didn't cut him off, didn't hunt him down. And he did drop him in that second round, and I think he'll be looking at that and looking where the opportunity is. And I think he will have made that adjustment. It's just whether he can execute and whether Volk can pick him apart from the outside again. I won't be surprised if we maybe see some more wrestling and grappling in this fight if Volk does start to get pieced up a bit. But again, I've got 4-1 Volk winning this fight. Now, co-main event. This is going to just be bloody. I got BSD winning, but it's either going to go 2 ways. BSD just takes him down and just submits him in the first round, kind of like what Arman did. I think Arman did it in the second round. Or it's going to be a 3-round bloody war. But I think BSD gets the win here via submission. Dan Hooker, hats off to him for taking these tough fights. He fought the number 1 contender, Arman Tsarukyan, after being out for over a year. Yeah, he gets submitted in the second round by that arm triangle. Arman's a different level on the ground to BSD, but you saw what BSD did to Roofy, just absolutely dominated him and then ripped his face off with the submission. I think he's going to be looking to do the same here with Dan Hooker. And as over the time with BSD, when he lost that fight to Dustin Poirier, the easiest money I made, I couldn't believe Dustin was paying like over $3. He got finished by Poirier, and then in UFC, Paris Moicano absolutely just bashed him. I was there in attendance. And then since then, he's come back and he's been on an absolute tear. 3-fight win streak, coming off that 16-second first-round knockout over Beneil Dariush. Sent him to the Shadow Realm. And in Paris last year, submitting Roofy face crank in the second round. He's really coming into his own right now. And the biggest thing was he wasn't defensively minded. He's super tough. And I think he was relying on that and was just taking too much damage. And that was what was losing these fights. But now he's being more defensively minded. He's fighting a lot smarter. He's a former French Special Forces officer. And he started MMA back in 2019, his first fight. So he's really coming into his prime now with his skill and fight IQ, putting it all together, because he hasn't been doing it that long, 6-7 years now. And when he fought Dustin Poirier, he'd only been doing it around 5 years. And this fight against Dan Hooker is a good matchup for him. A clear path to victory, but he just has to put his ego aside and not get into a brawl with Dan Hooker, because Dan Hooker does have good heavy hands for a lightweight, and that's where he thrives, because Hooker's also tough himself. I mean, go watch Hooker vs. Dustin Poirier, thank me later. Probably watch it with the boys or something. I wouldn't put it on with kids around or your mum around. It's a very brutal fight. And yeah, Benoit, he's on a great tear now. He's currently ranked in the lightweight division number 8. He's versing Hooker number 6. So I think he wins this, and he'll be looking, to face maybe Paddy, or if Arman doesn't get a title shot or has to fight again, he'll be one fight away from a title fight possibly. And he's got great grappling. It's just that defense. He just has to continually be defensively minded. And yeah, Dan Hooker's kind of just like doesn't really give a shit sometimes. He just goes in there. He's like, I'm just here to fight. I love it. And yeah, that not low fight IQ, but I think he just doesn't make smart decisions. And that's where I see him getting pretty hurt in this fight and getting submitted. But he needs to kind of lull BSD and get him wanting to be in a boxing war in the clinch and not let this fight go to the ground. And this is where he can win, a third round TKO, because BSD can get cut open pretty easy. But I think BSD is a lot smarter now. He seems to be got a good team around him, and he's going to execute on his game plan, which is get him down, ground and pound him, and then submit him. Now, this next fight is going to be an absolute striker's delight. Two of the most crafty strikers in this division, Rafael Vazeev versus Mauricio Rufy. It's kind of interesting how people fight each other and then they're kind of instantly back on the same card. Like Rufy and then BSD. I wonder what those interactions are like. Some guy that just dominated you and then you're fighting on the same fight card as him. But it is what it is. But Rafael Vazeev coming off a good win against the top prospect in, I think it was Bahamundes. Yeah, Ignacio Bahamundes. I think it was UFC Azerbaijan. So coming off that win, he was on a 3-fight losing streak before that. He's been out with bad injuries. He got that leg injury against Mateusz Gamrot. And then the other 2 losses against Justin Gaethje, who's now the interim lightweight champ. And his return back was against Justin Gaethje on a short notice fight, which he lost by decision. So yeah, Rafael, he just hasn't been able to get to that next level because he's an exceptional striker, great Muay Thai. But then a guy like Mauricio Rufy, a long, lengthy guy, crazy spinning kicks. I think we're going to see a decision here. I think they're going to cancel each other out a bit and be more of a point sort of a fight. And it's just really who's going to show the judges more volume and be more aggressive. I don't think we're going to see much grappling. Will Rafael see what BSD did and try and implement that? I don't think so. But I'd like to see him maybe try, because there's a clear skill gap with Rufy on the ground, as you saw. Rufy has been in Volk's training camp, and as we know, Volk, Craig Jones, Mexican ground karate is all about takedown defense and getting back up to your feet. So I'm sure he's worked a whole ton of that while being in camp with Volk. It's just, it's only been since September last year, so like 4 months or so, 4 months since his last fight. Very hard to close that gap in the wrestling grappling in such a short period. Also, is there a bit of beef with the fighting nerds now with Jean Lord Silva? Volk, the champion in Silva's division, Rufy now going over there to train with him. Is there a bit of beef there? I don't know. Hearing rumors. But again, you gotta travel a bit or go to other camps and learn other things where camps do things especially well. And Volk's camp can bridge that gap for him with the takedown defense and getting up to your feet. It's the perfect camp for you to go to learn that well-roundedness. And, if you're all the fighting nerds, you can't just think we have everything, because you guys, what champ do you guys have? Volk's been his camp. He's been champ, or as I said, title fights for 11 straight fights for 7 years straight. So going into Volk's camp, I think, has been a great smart move for Rufy to further develop his game. And I'm very interested in this fight. 3 rounds. I think it's going to be a decision. Who's going to win? Man, I'm pretty split on it, eh? I'm pretty split because you just don't know with Rafael Fiziev, just with durability issues. And then Rufy coming, you got that knockout of the year as voted by you guys over King Green, the spinning wheel kick. Yeah, if Rafael Fiziev doesn't implement some clinching and grappling, Rufy can very much pick him apart from the outside. But Fiziev's a dangerous guy, powerful guy. I think Rufy being a fan favorite, you'd want to lean to him. I feel like that's where people are leaning. But Fiziev, man, he's good too, and I think I'm gonna have to go for Rafael Fiziev in this fight. Very much think it's a pick'em, and also another possible fight of the night there. Now, the return of we've got Tai Tuivasa versus Talison Teixeira in the heavyweight matchup. Tai Tuivasa, he's been out for quite some time now, just on Tapology. Let me get it up. But as you know, Talison Teixeira got that. He got one fight in the UFC, got the win over Justin Tafa, and then got catapulted to fight Derek Lewis in Nashville last year. Main event, trying to mog Lewis, disrespecting him in the face-offs, and then just charges in and gets knocked out. And then we just saw Derek Lewis get finished in the second round by Waldo Cortez Acosta. And Tuivasa, I think he's hoping Talison does the same. Just tries to rush him in, get into a gunfight, and Tuivasa has got the craziest knockout power. He almost finished Cyril Gane. He knocked him on his ass. We were so close to seeing Tai Tuivasa in an interim title fight if he had got through Cyril Gane. We literally could have seen Tuivasa versus John Jones at one point. Like, he was on a great streak before. Yeah, that's after that Cyril Gane fight. Then he loses to Sergey, then Volkov, then Tybura, and Rosenstrike. So yeah, he's on a 5-fight losing streak. Hasn't won in 4 years since 2022 against Derek Lewis. So this is a good bounce back fight for him. He's got a young guy in Talison Teixeira. Talison very quick and powerful himself, but I think he's just lacking that fight IQ. And I think, if he tries to blitz Tuivasa just puts his head down and starts swinging. And he generally gets the better of the exchanges, Tuivasa. So I'm picking my Western Sydney brother in this fight. In the UFC, he's 8-8, but yeah, it's just generally his ground game is where he ends up losing. 3 losses via submission, 3 via KO, 2 via decision. But yeah, he's back-to-back TKOs and back-to-back subs, and then a decision loss to Rosenstrike, who has been cut from the UFC. Like, I think Tuivasa is still ranked at heavyweight. Yeah, he's ranked 12, and he hasn't fought since August 2024, so almost 18 months. But that's what happens when you're entertaining. You always put on entertaining fights, whether you win or lose. You get up on the cage, do a shoey, and the UFC will keep you in the rankings and keep you having a contract. But yeah, heavyweight matchup, this one. It's just going to be an unstoppable force versus an immovable object. Someone's getting knocked out. And in the first fight on the main card, we've got an Aussie matchup here. Quillan Sauerkild versus Jamie Malarkey. Jamie Malarkey, just an absolute veteran at this stage of his career. He's he's only 31, but he's been fighting since freaking 2013. He made his UFC debut in 2019. He fought Volk on the regional scene, got slept. But Quillan Sauerkild, he was originally supposed to fight the Chinese Rong Zhu, who fought last year in Sydney in an absolute crazy fight against Cody Steele. So we're hoping to see Quillan Sauerkild add another minority to his list, but this will be an all-Aussie matchup, and Sauerkild coming off that crazy head kick knockout, the bakery man over Nasrat Haskarat. I think we're going to see the same here again. Malarkey, very hittable, just not the fastest guy in the octagon. He's durable, but I think Sauerkild is coming into his own right now. He's 3-0 in the UFC, and yeah, he's just so well-rounded, Sauerkild. I still don't think people realize how well-rounded, how good his jiu-jitsu and grappling is. You saw him against Uzmov. That Uzmov was supposed to be the guy with the more dominant grappling, and Sauerkild walked over him in that department, and it's just a gas tank for Sauerkild at this stage. He's still working on it because he fights at a great pace. He's only 26, so once he gets around that 28, I think his gas tank will very much peak. It'll be a lot better, but at this moment, when he does mix it up, you can see his gas tank does go down a little bit, but I think just still being a young age and putting it all together, it'll just eventually come that gas tank. But yeah, good matchup. I think, yeah, Jamie is very much the nail in this fight. And yeah, Quillan by a knockout. So that's the main card, guys. I'll skim through the prelims. Prelims are, Junior Tuffer versus Billy Elakina. Light heavyweight fight. This could be a very slow burn, bad decision fight. Billy Elakina last year was in one of the worst fights of the year. 4 significant strikes landed. It was against Ibo Aslan. And then he came back and got a round 1 submission win. But yeah, who knows? Junior Tuffer, he was originally at heavyweight. Now he's cut down to light heavyweight. Looks a lot better at this weight division. He's coming off that loss to Tuco Tukos. Round 2 arm triangle. So yeah, very much the ground game for these Australian heavyweights, light heavyweights, are pretty lacking. The power's not, but yeah, the ground game's a clear deficit, weak point for the Tougher brothers, the two of us. So that's where Billy will be very much trying to target in this fight, is getting Junior down to the ground and us submitting him. But I'm going Tougher by knockout. Got to support the brother. I think he's up in Brisbane, trains up in Brisbane here, an hour away from me. Cam Rowson versus Cody Brundage. This middleweight fight's going to be... This might be fight of the night, to be honest. Tune in for this. Just two, unranked middleweights going into scrap. Let's go. Cam Rowson trains out of City Kickboxing. And yeah, another middleweight, Jacob Malkoon, Aussie versus Torres Finney. Torres Finney is like DC, is mini DC essentially. He's very short and compact. He's 5'8", and he was in that fight against, which he hasn't fought since, Robert Valentin. One of the I don't even think he landed a significant strike. All he did was just press him up against the cage. Yeah, one of the most boring, forgettable fights, but memorable in the fact how just yuck it was watching it. So I got Jacob Malkoon by a knockout. And this is another interesting one. Tune in for this. A bit of beef going about here, but Jonathan McAuliffe versus Oban Elliott. Jonathan, Australia's own, And, he's got that win over Kevin Jusate February last year in Sydney. And then they were supposed to fight in Perth, these guys. But then Oban got real sick, real bad, and had to pull out. And which is unfortunate, but what can you do when I think you had like pneumonia or something. So that got cancelled. So now it's rescheduled for this fight. It's going to be a great welterweight matchup. I'm pretty split on this because I want the Aussie to win, but Oban, he's a tough guy. I think he's coming off the loss to Suk Hyun Ko of June last year, so he'll be wanting to get back in the win column. That's going to be an epic fight, so tune in for that on the prelims. And as well, Khan Offley versus Yi Jia. Khan, the Australian. I think he's also... what flag they got on here? Turkey. Australian Turkish. He's coming off that great win over Ricardo Ramos, round 1 submission. He was an underdog in that fight. It was over in Brazil. So was on back-to-back losses, but now he got that upset win over Ramos, and now he's got a tough guy in Yuja. I got the Aussie there winning that, and that's the prelims. And then from there, it's the road to UFC bout. So a lot of Aussies on this. Don Marfan, who fought Quillen Southfield a couple times and lost on the regional scene here in Australia. And the rest, just some other Aussie Kiwi guys. Well, that's UFC 325 previewed, guys. Volkanovski looking to defend his belt again. I think this will be... How many times has he defended it? So, 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, 4. It's got 4 up until Max Holloway. And then the year one where unified. You got to count that as a defense, surely. So that's 5. And then got it again. So this will be his 6th title defense. I'm sure the year fight would count as a title defense, wouldn't it? The unification. So this will be his 6th title defense for the featherweight belt. But let me know what your thoughts on this main event, who you got winning, as well as what your fight of the night's going to be. I think fight of the night will be Hooker versus BSD. And the UFC embedded's been great. Rafael Vazeev putting up a video doing the John Silver scream like he did against the belt, but except he was doing it on the food. Super hilarious. But not much else to really add other than, would have liked to have seen a Movza or Lerone in this fight. A fresh matchup, but Lopes, a super entertaining guy. So it's going to be an entertaining fight. I drafted him in my UFC team. So it's very much a win-win here. So if Volk wins, I'm super stoked because that's what I'm going for. But if Lopes wins, at least I get points from my UFC draft team. You can follow that along at Gibbo Fantasy or go to my Gibbo MMA page and you'll find it there too. Essentially, we drafted 13 fighters and they score points based upon the scoring criteria. So it's from the period UFC 324 to the White House. We got 6 teams. So you draft 1 from each weight class and then 2 wild cards. So he was my first pick, Diego Lopes, because you get 25 points for a main event and 25 points for a title fight. So that's an automatic 50 points. And Lopes is super active. So even if he loses this, I'm sure we'll see him before the White House card, if not on it, versus a guy which I think he'll get a performance bonus in, which you get points for. UFC 325 previewed, guys. Looking forward to it. And Volkanovski and still. All right, catch you later.